Okay, I've got a question. What do a beloved Chinese restaurant, a literal cast of thousands, and some over-the-top cereal product placement have in common?
Well, somehow, believe it or not, they are all key plot points in 2022's Christmas at the Golden Dragon. We've got a lot to talk about, Josh.
We do, Jennifer, and we will unwrap it all for you on this episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
If you like holiday movies from the classics to newbies, let's sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh. Sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh.
Hi, friends. I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Josh. It's the week of Thanksgiving, but on this episode, we're having some Chinese for the big meal, Jennifer, with Hallmark's Christmas at the Golden Dragon. I got to tell you, I'm a General Tso's kind of guy. So what's your go-to Chinese dish, Jennifer?
I'm kind of so on General So, but I'm pretty boring. I like sweet and sour chicken. I like orange chicken. Any kind of chicken and fried rice situation I can get down with.
It is a classic, right? Absolutely.
I
And
can also
you would
do lo
think,
mein and Mongolian beef if I'm
ah,
feeling, adventurous.
now you've got me thinking about a midnight snack after we're finished recording the podcast here. I do have some
I've never been
ice cream.
hungrier than watching this movie. You have ice cream.
I do have some ice cream tonight. Yeah. No, I also feel like this was one of those where I expected so much time in the kitchen, and we got maybe this much time in the kitchen. So
Oh no.
we
Is that
got
going to
some
affect
stuff
your
to talk
feelings on
about.
it? We'll have to figure that out.
Stay tuned. But first, let me give everybody the synopsis for Christmas at the Golden Dragon. When a beloved Midwestern Chinese restaurant announces its closing right before Christmas, it prompts their clientele to re-examine their relationships in a series of interconnected stories amid the chaos of the busiest week of the year. Now, this was one, Jennifer, that I actually wound up drafting when we were picking holiday movies, but you also thought that this one sounded pretty interesting to you.
I am intrigued by an interconnected story.
Mm.
So it sounded to me like it would be a little bit like Love Actually in the
Hmm.
kitchen. And I think that would probably be the 5 cent synopsis if I had to write one. Love
Well, there you
Actually
go.
in a restaurant.
Hmm.
In and around a restaurant.
In Wichita, Kansas. Hmm.
Yes.
Yes. So
What
let's
did
just
you
go
think? What
ahead
made
and,
you draft it? What intrigued you?
well, what intrigued me was that sort of interconnectedness thing that they're talking about there, because that seemed like a storytelling device that we don't obviously normally get in these movies. I thought it was kind of a unique take and a unique setting, and might be something that made for a unique kind of movie. Now, will it leave you hungry an hour later, much like a Chinese dinner does? I don't know.
Oh man, let's get into it.
All right, so let me just be honest out of the gate, Jennifer. There is a lot here, a lot of characters, and a lot of names and a lot of detail. So bear with me. But
I wish we
curtain
had like one of those
opens.
big dry erase boards that had like stick figures of all the characters and their names and who is attached to who, because that would be beneficial right
It
now.
very
Like a
much
war board.
needs a flow chart, or yes, that very much would be very
Yeah, we will
helpful
put a
here.
disclaimer. We cannot promise we won't mess up a name and say the wrong thing, but our
Yes,
hearts are in the
well,
right place, I promise.
exactly. And if you have a problem with it, just ask for your money back. See what
The
I did
shade.
there?
I did.
So curtains up, we've got some stock corporate presentation video, and our leading lady, Romy, it turns out, is doing a presentation at her company where she's talking about family. And she has this line where she says, "Family is always your best decoration." Anyway, cut to Wichita, Kansas, and turns out that Romy's mom is chatting with a woman named Jane, who is this very sort of busy suburban mom type, but not too busy to do a fortune cookie trick with a busy single dad who's in the restaurant with his two daughters. So we get those three characters in the restaurant. Then we get Miguel, who it turns out is a delivery man. He finds out that he gets into Princeton, and we learn very early on that his dad would freak out if he announces that he's getting into college. He's really concerned about what his dad's going to think about that. Anyway, he delivers food to some hotshot CFO, And then we see Miguel eating Chinese food with the son of the people who run the Chinese restaurant in Wichita. So, listener, if you're already confused, this is a mere glimmer of the veritable whiplash that I found myself dealing with literally 5 to 7 minutes into this movie. Were you equally, what is going on here about this, like I was,
I think I
Jennifer?
broke out into a sweat because we are introduced to no less than 15 characters in the span of, like you said, 7 to 8 minutes. And
Whoa.
being professional broadcasters that we are, I was trying to take good notes and my fingers were a typing. And then I had to rewind it and be like, who was that? And sometimes it was somebody that didn't matter, but you didn't know in the beginning who would actually have a storyline around them or who was just picking up their food and leaving. But most of these people
Exactly.
mattered.
Most of these people mattered, and it was just, it felt very high stress. Like I had to try to figure out early on who these people were to actually get what they were trying to do here.
I wish we could have kind of waded into the water a little bit,
Ugh,
but they just
please.
threw us flat out in the deep end with all these characters. And so I guess
Anyway,
it's a time constraint thing. I mean, they just don't have enough time to do that. They have to just shove them all in your face and then you figure out later who's who. But
yeah,
it was a lot
it was a
right from the
lot.
jump.
Yes. So the son here, his name is Rick. He flirts with a young girl named Sadie, who is in college at UCLA. Turns out that he dumped her right before their high school prom. Bummer. We're back in New York
Thanks, Rick.
City. I know, Rick. We're
Oh,
back in New York City, and Romy's boyfriend wants her to come to Vermont to be with his family. She's really about to be knee deep in dumplings, she says, because her family is super busy at Christmas, obviously. She calls her parents, and shockingly, they tell her, go to Vermont, which is okay, interesting.
we
We
kind of get
find
this
out,
glimmer that her and Rick's parents are always kind of very hardcore about the holidays. It's their busiest time of the year, all hands
very
on deck, home help with the restaurant. But
right.
they were easy breezy about this. Like, oh, she should enjoy Christmas. She was always spending Christmas here working. Let Romy live and let live with Blake and his family.
Yeah, which sort of raises a red flag for her early on that something is amiss, and we're going to find out
Mhm.
very soon what that is. Anyway, cut to the CFO gal, as I write about her in our notes, because I'd never really understood what her name was until probably about 2/3 into this
Veronica.
movie. Veronica, yes. Cut to
Veronica.
Veronica. She gets some bad news about her latest IVF cycle, and her OBGYN, by the way, is Sadie's dad.
Yeah.
apparently there's only 15 people in Wichita, Kansas, and they all eat dinner at the Golden Dragon.
Yeah. Which I caught that and I was like, "Oh, Dr. Cohen, that's her last name."
Right.
But they didn't really we don't see
No,
Dr. Cohen anymore. So
no.
he was kind of he's there and then he's gone. But I did appreciate that they still, I guess, tied him together. But yeah, it's
But
quite the web.
Veronica is bummed that her IVF didn't work. Turns out that same day she finds out about that, she gets a package from Amazon that's a baby name book, and she's super bummed. She drops it in her driveway, and her neighbor, who is a really nice guy, what's
Jack.
his name? Yes.
Jack.
Jack is a widower, and they sort of have this friendship, which is kind of endearing throughout the entire film, which I liked.
She gives him a
They,
hard time because I guess he recently had a heart attack or a stroke.
yes. And he
And
likes to eat
so she was
Chinese
like,
food.
"Yeah, you got to lay off. You got to eat better." Da 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 da. So that was very sweet.
And he's like, no.
Jack doesn't care.
Jack
Jack gonna do
doesn't care.
Jack.
Jack's going to do what Jack's going to do. Anyway, so they announce that the restaurant is closing. The Golden Dragon is going to be closing on Christmas Eve, and they're moving to Arizona. They already bought a house, and there you go. They didn't even tell their kids before they told everybody else at the restaurant. Okay.
I thought this was going to be the big bad developer swoops in. We got to save the restaurant kind of a thing.
Yeah. No,
Parents are just like, we're
we're
moving on to
done.
greener pastures. We're done with this phase of life. We're getting out of the dumpling biz. Bye.
Understood.
Here's your bonus staff. Here's your staff bonus. Here's some severance and lose our numbers, basically.
Right. Exactly. You'll always be family, but we'll never see you again. Yeah, exactly.
Send us a postcard.
Cut to Vermont, and Romy is there with her boyfriend. She brings a poinsettia, which is the largest poinsettia that I think she could possibly be carrying. And whoopsie doo, they have pets. And so it's obviously a poison hazard.
Yeah, she was
They
trying to impress them. I did feel for her in this
very,
moment. She was trying to make a good
ugh,
first impression. And right out the gate, they were very kind, but they're like, "Thank you, but please leave it outside so you don't murder our animals."
And then
How
they,
bad would you feel?
oh gosh. And then immediately they go out into the backyard and they have built a very fake looking snowman and have a snowball fight. And I guess her maybe someday brother-in-law pelts her in the stomach with a snowball and she acts like it was a gunshot to the stomach, and whoopsie-doo, that ends the snowball fight. And so clearly we're getting this she's a fish out of water kind of sentiment here.
Yes, and she has built up since she's never had a traditional Christmas, she's built up, "This is my chance to have, like, the
Mhm.
heartwarming decorated house, all the Hallmark tropes, the snowball fight, and yada da da," and she quickly
Mhm.
realizes maybe this is not all picture perfect in the
Yeah,
real
she
world.
really wants the whole perfect thing, and it's certainly not gonna happen.
Mhm.
Cut to Big Corp. I don't know, whatever the business is where Veronica works, and
Yeah,
she
who
runs
cares?
into the single dad. His name is
Nate.
Nate. Yes. She orders food from the Golden Dragon for her mom. Turns out her mom is Jane, who we saw in one of the first scenes, and Miguel is delivering it in a suit. He's on his way to an interview. He fixes some sort of light fixture at Jane's house. Now, Jane is Veronica's mom. Veronica's the CFO, where he then has this interview. Because he was fixing the mom's light fixture, he's late to the interview with Jane and bombs the interview. I'm sorry, late to the interview with Veronica and bombs the interview. You could see just how, ugh,
A tangled
this
web we
is.
weave with
It
garland
is
everywhere.
tangled and it is just all over the board.
Well,
Anyway,
when we glean Miguel is just a great guy, right? Because he helps Jack, the
yes.
neighbor, who's a widower. He helps Jane, who's recently widowed and kind of needs help around the house. And if you're
Mhm.
going to be late to an interview, my goodness, what's a better way than because I was helping a widowed mother try to fix
Exactly.
up her house? And Veronica
Exactly.
doesn't know any of that. Veronica just knows Miguel's late to the interview, and she's hardcore and was like, "No, Grace, this isn't for
No,
you, kid."
this isn't for you. Move on. Right. Cut to Nate. He's the single dad with the two kids. He bombs the assignment when it comes to roasted chestnuts at the Christmas marketplace, and he's super sad about it. We're back in Vermont now, and Romy is shocked that her boyfriend's room is normal and not gussied up full stream for his youth as a teen boy. She was expecting posters and a twin bed and the whole 9 yards, and that's not what it is.
I did think it was funny because I just assumed the parents had, like, taken all that down and kind of turned it into a
Right?
guest room. He's like, "No, this was the way my room looked." Where were the posters? I had Backstreet Boy posters. I think I
Yeah.
had a Britney Spears poster.
Yes.
I definitely had wasn't athletic, so I had, like, a trophy for perfect attendance, like,
You would. You would.
in one of the saddest things I've ever said on a podcast, but here we are. It's the truth. Like, my accolades, but he didn't have any of that. He did seem like a dull dud. So
It
then at this
was
point, I thought, "Oh, he's gonna be the boring boyfriend and she's gonna meet somebody else."
mhm.
No,
No. No.
just a little weird moment.
Yeah, he is impossibly perfect in this movie. There is nary a flaw with him, which is interesting to me. Anyway, they're trying to watch football, as one does at the holidays, and she comes out and she says, "No, we need to assemble gingerbread houses." And so the family's like, "Ugh, okay, we'll do gingerbread houses." And it turns out Romy is terrible at gingerbread houses, and surprisingly, everybody else is exceptional at gingerbread houses. Did you see the perfection that they had with these Target kits that just looked like they
Oh,
were
yeah.
fresh off the shelf? Yeah.
Have you done one of those kits before?
I am terrible at those kits. Like, I
Same.
don't think they're actually made to look at all like they do on the box. There's no way.
No, I mean, we've tried it. We tried it last year, ordered a special one for Grayson, and the icing was so thick, it all crumbled. And literally the photo, because it's all about the picture, is me like holding it upright for one moment,
Mhm.
like grimacing and cringing until it all just fell apart. And the candy wasn't even good.
No, the candy's always stale. Yeah. Anyway, it
Yeah.
was not a good
I do
moment
like
for
the
her.
idea though. I've done little competitions before with the gingerbread houses, so it was
Yes,
a good thought.
yes. Anyway, her brother FaceTimes her in the middle of the gingerbread extravaganza to break the news that the restaurant is closing. So, cut to Jane's house. Veronica notices that the light fixture is suddenly good to go. And maybe, question mark, makes the connection to Miguel. She sort of, I think, starts to put 2 and 2 together. Jane is apparently going to do this big hotshot Christmas party, even though she's sad. And the reason she's sad is because her husband, who died, used to be a big hotshot basketball coach in town. Division 1A. We get that very early and often, that he was a big deal in the world of college basketball. Because of that, he was kind of an absent father. I think we glean, and Veronica, I think, harbors a little bit of bitterness about that.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Cut to Nate, who I mistakenly wrote Jake in my notes because, again, there's 1,000 people in this movie.
I'm sure we've talked about Jake at some point this season.
Oh, for sure. He is coaching his daughter on public speaking because she's got a big part in the Christmas pageant and she's super nervous about it. Cut to Romy. She is forcing the Vermont family of her boyfriend to go caroling in Dickens outfits. And
or Dickens attire.
Always. I had to laugh. It's like, this is the season on Hallmark of everybody having to wear these Dickens costumes. It's like, did they get some kind of sponsorship from dickenscostumes.com or something like that?
They have to have at this point. Is this our 3rd or 4th movie just that we've talked about? Not even everything that's aired that has had a major plot point around Dickens attire.
Is that something that's far more common than I think it is? Because I've honestly, maybe a handful of times in my life, have seen Dickens carolers out and about.
I mean, well, in Franklin, Tennessee, they have that Dickens Christmas festival. But other than that, yeah, I don't see them wandering around. You don't really see carolers anymore either. I think that's how you get shot nowadays. That's like a Ring doorbell no.
And they virtually do get shot in Vermont when people make fun of them, shut the garage door on them. It's kind of comical how badly they're rejected. Yeah. And so that does not go well. They were not here for it. It was kind of sad. So Rick is on a date with Sadie Cohen. Finally, we're back in Wichita. They go ice skating. He's a hot mess on skates. And then they go for a midnight snack, of course, at the Dragon. And he is going to make some of his food. He sort of is one of these sons who's in the shadow of his father. He has recipes. He has ideas for the restaurant. His dad really doesn't give him much credit. He's kind of a little aimless in his life is sort of the theme that we get
like Pumpkin Pie Wars was a little bit of that too.
Very much. Absolutely. Yeah. So Veronica learns that Miguel is super helpful with her neighbor. And very soon after, Nate runs into Veronica at the Dragon. This winds up turning into a casual date, which Lauren, my lovely wife, of course, was like, why can't they just go on a date somewhere other than the Dragon? Why do they have to be at the Dragon the entire movie? It's like, is this the only restaurant in Wichita, Kansas?
Maybe so. But you know, as much as anybody, well, I shouldn't speak for you. In our house, it's very hard to figure out where to eat.
Oh,
it can be a very tension-filled thing. So, why mess that up from the get-go? If he's trying to woo her, they both like the Dragon. Let's just eat at the Dragon.
Let's just do it. Might as well.
That's what do you want? What kind of food do you like? Yeah. Easy peasy.
So it turns out that Sadie had invited Rick after their date to help her out at some charity thing where they would have to dress like elves and hand out toys. He at first is like, absolutely, I'll be there because I want to spend time with you. But then when it push comes to shove and he actually has to show up, his dad makes him stay at the restaurant and cook because it's already super busy. And dad doesn't give him the chance to explain to Sadie what's up because he's kind of not told his dad about Sadie. And so he sort of stands her up and it does not go well.
I wrote down she's a real sad elf.
Very sad elf. Almost
with a hint of bitterness. Like he's doing it again.
He's doing it again. And she sort of does this like, thing. It was very that. So back in Vermont, we learned that her boyfriend Blake's family does presents on Christmas Eve, and Blake gets her a really ugly necklace, which I was like, oh, that's kind of a disappointment because did you think
I was assuming it had some sort of a sentimental value, like it meant something. It had some emblem on it.
I thought
it
for
was
a second,
a Chinese emblem of some sort that meant something to her family.
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't explain that.
They don't explain it. For a second, I thought he was going to propose to her in that
Mhm.
moment, but
I think
no.
she probably thought that too.
Instead she gets a necklace. Okay.
Yeah.
We are back in Wichita now. It turns out that Jane canceled the big Christmas party at the very last minute because she said she couldn't do it. Veronica is really in this scene, I think, kind of mean to her mom, who's obviously grieving. It felt like Veronica very much unleashed all of her anger about her dad in this moment, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah.
She goes home and she winds up having hot buttered rum with her neighbor. What's his name again?
Jack.
Jack, yes, the widower, who tells her about their own infertility, which is kind of nice because I think Veronica has felt very sad and alone in all of that. And so after that happens, she decides she's going to bolt to the Christmas pageant that Nate mentioned to be there to support him and his daughters. He had invited her. She said, I can't go because I have to go to my mom's party. Anyway, suddenly she's free, so she goes. This is exhausting, Jennifer, even recounting the plot of this movie. Like,
I will be interested actually to watch the analytics of this episode because I'm afraid people are just going to duck out. Like, we need to start telling knock jokes every few minutes to keep people invested, because when you're watching it, it makes sense.
Right. It's just,
But
yeah,
it
a
hops
lot.
around a lot. It's
Yeah.
very bouncy.
Very bouncy. So we're back at the Dragon now. The place is packed, and Sadie is there with her family, and she's super frosty. Nate's daughter Jessa is embarrassed by her dad after the pageant because he like trounces up to stage and is like hiding behind a piece of scenery, and he's like, you can do it, which is exactly what an 11-year-old wants to hear in a moment of stage fright from their dad right off stage.
I know, but to be fair, he was trying to help and she wasn't
He was
performing,
trying,
so
and
she needed something.
She needed something, yeah, but it was kind of
His
I
heart
can't
was in the
believe
right
that.
place, but
Very
yeah.
much so. Yeah.
No, our son has a speaking role in the Christmas program at his preschool in a few weeks.
Yay.
And we'll see how that goes.
What role is he? Please tell me he's like a lamb or something.
Well, no, last year his class was donkeys.
Okay.
They were all donkeys. They just had to wear gray and they had little ears and tails and they sang. But now that he's older, he has a speaking role and he's the letter T in Christmas.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
He gets to say, so I don't even know what he's going to say because every time I ask him, he says, I forgot, which does not bode well.
Nope, does not bode well.
So I need to get some poinsettias and hide behind him and go stage mom. Don't think I won't.
Don't think I won't. Exactly.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Stay tuned.
Please. Yeah, right. Anyway, so Veronica learns that Miguel is really an awesome guy and decides to give him another chance. She admits her mistake during their earlier interview. We're in Vermont at a Chinese restaurant because Blake's family decides to go out for Chinese to make her feel a little bit more comfortable at the holidays, which was a really nice gesture.
It was a nice gesture. I mean, it is one of those, I came on this trip to get away from that, but I guess they didn't know that.
Yeah, and they order a bunch of food, and then the people serving them talk smack about them in Chinese, and Romy whips around and in Chinese is like, stop, they're trying to be nice, don't be a jerk.
Yeah, she put him in their place. I really liked Romy a lot.
I did.
She had a little sass, but also heart, and I really liked her character.
I did too. I thought it was a great character for sure.
She was expecting holiday ham, and that didn't pan out.
Nope, did not.
Go to the other restaurant.
Exactly. So we're back in Wichita, and Luis and his dad Miguel, new character, yay! They're roasting marshmallows. I didn't even write Luis
down.
Yeah, probably wasn't worth it. Yeah, they roast marshmallows, and they finally talk about his college admissions, and Miguel says he really wants to do this. Luis is like, I'm super proud of you. So that sort of resolves. Romy decides in the moment at the Chinese restaurant in Vermont that she simply must go home to Wichita. She stands up and she says, I've got to go. Blake's family is like, cool, we'll help make it happen. And one by one, the family sort of says what they'll do to help get her there, which I thought was kind of...
That was very sweet. And they'd already they opened all their presents at 10 a.m. Christmas Eve on the 24th as their tradition, which, you know, I don't co-sign. But that was all the pomp and circumstances out of the way. Yes. Go to Wichita. Let's do it. By all means. Yeah.
So Romy shows up in Wichita, and they're going to open the Dragon on Christmas for one last hurrah. So Jake and Jessa I'm sorry, I did it again. His name is Nate. Nate and Jessa reconcile, and they make Chex treats. And every time we're in Nate's house, there are boxes of Chex on the countertop. And then there is this very long hashtag product placement montage where they make a Chex treat involving rice Chex and corn Chex and chocolate and powdered sugar.
Not only was it Chex, he brought it out of a Walmart bag.
Walmart bag, yes.
Which, again, nothing against Walmart or Chex, but this was the most blatant product placement we've seen yet this year.
Really
Even more
bad.
than Balsam Hill. It was a
Yeah.
commercial. But
It was
at the
a
end of it,
full-fledged commercial.
I did want to make some Muddy Buddies or
Oh.
reindeer chow or whatever
Yeah.
you call it.
Yeah.
It did its job.
Anyway, so there's reconciliation there, and then we get a reconciliation from Veronica and Jane. So they sort of yada-yada'd here all of the family dynamics that had to this point been really prevailing. So
Mhm.
cut to the dragon. We've got one last hurrah here. The staff is rallying because all the staff have been let go at this point. So what they do is that all of the regulars are now going to help put it on. And so Rick and Sadie reconcile, and it turns out that it's going to be a prom at the Golden Dragon. And so we're going to get that in a moment. But after Blake proposes to Romy. So he drops to a knee in the Golden Dragon and proposes with a gold pipe cleaner ring. Okay. Then we get...
Sometimes it's the imperfections that make something so worthwhile because she's wanted everything to be so perfect the whole time.
Yeah,
But
that was kind of sweet.
I thought that was cute. Yeah.
It was cute. And so we get this prom moment, and I write in my notes, where do they find balloon arches on Christmas?
Yeah,
The
I
whole
didn't
thing
need
is
the
a little...
prom part of
it was
it.
a
Like,
little
just
weird.
have the dinner. I
Yeah.
know they did the prom because Rick had bailed on Sadie for prom, but like I didn't care about their
Mhm.
storyline really enough to have a
Mhm.
whole event centered around it. So I could have
Yeah.
done without the prom. That was one thing too many.
It was
I was
one
over it.
thing too many. Anyway, Sadie kisses Rick, so there's reconciliation there and love, and everything sort of just has a nice little bow on it at the end of the day.
Yeah, everybody one by one, all the regulars give. I guess it was a historical thing at the Dragon. People would give them ornaments for their tree in the restaurant. It was like everybody's tree.
Mhm.
So one by one, all the regulars give Romy's parents ornaments for the tree that I guess Romy will take over or Rick. But then they had like these little stories about the ornaments, and that was all very sweet. Yes. And then Romy has an ending monologue and said, Christmas always feels the same if you spend it with family.
It was kind of a nice way to put the bow on the movie, I thought.
I enjoyed the monologue. I rewound it and watched it again. So
Yeah.
it got me in my feels a little bit.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, time for our gold or coal segment where we each give 3 gifts. If there's more gold, it's a piping hot platter of sweet and sour chicken. If it's more coal, that's just the way the fortune cookie crumbles. And if it's a tie, it's just a 3 Christmas. Josh, I'm coming to you first. What you got?
Well, my first has got to be a piece of coal because I just thought that this movie was exhausting. It was hard to watch, hard to follow, and I just felt like it shouldn't be this hard to keep up with the plot of one of these. And that's all I'll say about it. To you.
Oh, similarly, my coal is there were too many characters. We could have I love the intertwined stories, but there were just way too many to keep up with. So I think we could have cut out about a third of them and still had a really good movie.
I am also going to give coal because I think the conflicts that we had that were so prevailing throughout the movie were just sort of yada yada at the end, like I said, and we're just very kind of dismissed without really any kind of fighting for it. It felt like, okay, that's over and we're moving on. I didn't like that.
I think they bit off more than they could chew with this whole idea. But I'm going to give gold for the intertwined characters. I loved what they tried to do. I don't know that the execution's totally there, but I really am into telling stories in different ways other than boy meets girl. They fall in love and that's it. Like they tried to do a lot. I think it was too much, but they tried, and I'm going to give them gold for that.
Yeah. My last gift is gold. I did think that it had a fair amount of Christmas feels. I liked the sentimentality, and I really did like this overall message that not perfect is absolutely okay. And that's not always something we get in these Hallmark movies. And I think that that was really something that was really well done in this film.
And I'm more of a Romy because I definitely want Christmas to be perfect, and it's so rarely. It's like, you make your
Right.
list of all the things you wanna do, and you wanna go here and that, and it just life
Never
happens,
happens.
and some of
Mhm.
the best memories of Christmases are centered around things that didn't go as planned, but still worked out wonderfully. So it's similarly to that, my last piece of gold is for the monologues, the opening and closing. I thought it really, like I said, it made me a little emotional, and I thought she spoke it well, and it was a good way to open and shut the movie.
That's fantastic. Well, we will have the bottom line in a second, but first, we've got some listener feedback in our What I Hear segment. First, from Lauren.
While I enjoyed the intertwining of characters and stories, it was a bit hard to keep up with at times and a stretch in places. For example, at the end, and we're having this last hurrah at the restaurant. It's Christmas. Everybody's decorating and cooking and in a good mood. And then we're going to recreate this prom thing. So it's like Christmas prom for this one couple. That did not fit in my head like at all. I also would have liked to seen more development of the relationship of the executive CFO worker lady and the newly single dad. Could they please go on a date to a restaurant that is not the Golden Dragon, for the love? Please.
And from someone I'll officially call Long-Winded Wilson sent us a message. Here it is.
This may be a very unpopular opinion, but I just feel like it needs to be said that I just don't like the opening sequences to most Hallmark movies. And I'm sorry, I just don't. These are wonderful, magical movies that we get to watch every year, but they can't spend, a couple more bucks on like actual video, not just stock photos and videos, or maybe some nice topography. No, topography is like geography, right? Like mountains and landscapes. What am I looking for? The font choices. I have trouble with that too. Topography. That's not right. No, I can't. I looked this up because it was bothering me too much between typography and topography. Topography is study of like the land and the features and how steep something is. Typography is like typing, like font. Very confusing. We should have chosen different words for that.
All right. So, bottom line, it was a 3-3 tie in terms of gold and coal. So, for us, we're just going to have to call it a Merry Christmas. I mean, what are your thoughts, Jennifer? Does that feel right?
So when I was watching it, I was stressed out with all the storylines. After it wrapped, I was really high on it. But now that I've kind of digested it a little bit longer and seen some other movies in the interim, I do think it'll probably land not the top of the pack, not the bottom, but A for effort. I do think they bit off more than they could chew. What about you?
I kind of agree. I think, like you said, if we could have had maybe a third fewer characters, I think it could have really intertwined in a way that felt still like they were trying to do what they did in this movie, but without some of the complexity that just made it, I think, at points really tough to follow. These are kind of the movies that you want to have on in the background while other stuff's happening or you're enjoying family time. And this is one where you've just really got to pay attention because you're going to miss something if you don't that could just leave you further confused down the line.
And it's hard to really care about any of the characters because we didn't get a lot of time with any of them
Right.
except Romy. We got the most with her, but everybody else is pretty surface level. So,
And even at that
I
point,
mean,
it's like, who do you cheer for? If you're cheering for everybody, then you're really cheering for nobody. It's kind of one of those. Yeah.
yeah, very true. And that, friends, is another episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
A special thanks to Nick Schwartz for our theme song, and of course, to you for listening. If you like our podcast, be sure to review, subscribe, and tell a friend. We're getting into the thick of it with some great movies coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Do You Watch What I Watch? So give us a follow, leave us a comment. We do comment back. We are super social out there, so let us know what you're thinking. You can also connect with us on our website at doyouwatchwhatiwatch.com.
Next time, we've got a new one from Hallmark coming your way, and it's one I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's 3 wise men and a baby. Here's the lowdown from IMDb. 3 brothers are surprised when they find themselves forced to care for a baby during the holidays. During the journey, they begin to rebuild their relationships as brothers while rediscovering their love for Christmas. We will have much to discuss, Josh, and until then,
May your days be merry and bright. We will see you next time.